Good morning and welcome to Search the Scriptures. I appreciate your studying with us, and I appreciate those who have had comments to say about the study. I know at least one or two people have come to me and say they are appreciating this going through the Bible this year, or the time that it takes us to do that, and I'm enjoying it as well. Every time I go through the Bible in this way or in any way, I learn more and more about God. We come to what is one of my favorite characters and favorite books of the Bible. I could spend an entire week on the book of Joshua, at least a week on the book of Joshua, to look at all the lessons. But we're going to try to cover this book in 2 days. So to do that, we're going to jump right in. You know where we are and where we meet at the Church of Christ in Parrish, and you know our times. If not, you can call us at the number at the bottom of the screen, and we can give you those times, or they are actually on our answering machine as well. So we'd love for you to call and ask questions and all those sorts of things, and we look forward to those comments that you give us. But let's go straight to the book of Joshua. The book of Joshua is a book of conquest. In this book, we have Joshua's account of Israel conquering the land of Canaan. That land that was promised, that land they had turned away from, that land they had wandered toward for 40 years. Joshua is filling in Moses' seat of leadership. After Moses' death, Joshua is the one that is going to lead the people into this promised land. If we were to divide the book by chapters, we'd have the crossing of Jordan in the first 5 chapters, the conquest of Jericho, a story that you'll remember from your childhood in chapter 6, the conquest of the central portion of Canaan in chapters 7 and 8, and then beginning in chapters 9 and 10, we have the conquest of southern Canaan, and 11 and 12, northern Canaan, and then we have the land being divided among the tribes in chapters 13 through 22. Then we have Joshua's farewell address in the last 2 chapters. Now that's just kind of a brief synopsis of what Joshua is, but you notice they get the land. I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, but here's what we have now when we come to the book of Joshua. We have God's people. We have a nation. Up to this point, they had been a nomadic people, a large family wandering through the wilderness, but now God has pulled this family, this people out of Egypt. He has given them a name, his name, Israel. He has given them a law, and a people with a name and a law, and now a land is a nation. And it is through that nation that God will bring Christ into the world. It's through that people of Abraham's descendants that God will bless the world through his Son, Jesus, his servant, the Christ, the anointed Messiah. Now, what we need to notice in the book of Joshua is that Joshua describes 2 characteristics of God. First of all, God is faithful. God promised Israel the land of Canaan, and God delivered. By the end of Joshua's leadership, Israel inhabits Canaan. And the second characteristic of God is that God is holy. God demanded Israel be faithful to him. When they were not righteous, they failed. One message that I see running through the book of Joshua that I want to point out, it's not so much about God's character as it is about man's service to God. Turn to Joshua chapter 1. I want to read the first 9 verses together. Joshua chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now you therefore arise and go over this Jordan, you and all the people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given you, just as I promised Moses. From the wilderness in this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, to the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous. For you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. God's message to Joshua, his new servant, is twofold. Two main ideas: rights and responsibilities. There are some things that Joshua has the right to, but he has been given responsibilities as well. There are things that the people of Israel had a right to, but there are things that they have a responsibility as well. This theme of rights and responsibilities is a theme that we need to learn. Let me take a moment just to describe or help you see rights and responsibilities. The high school that I went to, we had our principal, Miss Hazel Scales, a tough lady. She would come over the intercom every morning, and she would read at the beginning of the year the handbook for students. And she called our student handbook the Pine Forest High School Rights and Responsibilities. And she talked about all the rights that we had as students, and then she talked about all the responsibilities that we had as students. We had the right to a great education. We had the responsibility to study hard and do our homework. If you want that right, there's a responsibility that goes hand in hand. You have the right to a great environment at school. You have the responsibility to be that right environment, to be that model citizen. Joshua, or God, tells Joshua, here are your rights. Here are your responsibilities. Joshua has the right to lead Israel into Canaan. That's what God promised him. You lead his people. You have that right. You have the right to every place that your foot steps. You have the right to be victorious over every single enemy. These are great rights, great privileges, great blessings from God to know that you will succeed. But with rights, there are responsibilities. And here are the responsibilities that God tells Joshua he has. Just in this reading, Joshua, be strong and courageous. Joshua, you have the responsibility to observe and to do all the law that Moses has given you. You have the responsibility not to turn away to the right and not to turn away to the left, but to keep on keeping on, to not depart from the law. You have these rights, but you have the responsibility to obey what is written. Folks, we need this lesson. We need it in the church. We need it in our life. We need it in our schools. We need it in our nations. And right now, for just a moment, I want to step aside and not talk to you as a Christian, not talk to you as one of God's people, but I want to talk to you as a citizen of the United States. I don't do this often, but I feel like I need to say this. There are some lessons here in this idea of rights and responsibilities that we need to hear as American people. We are a nation that is built on the right of freedom. A nation founded on what our founding fathers called inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. We have begun in the past few decades to push some of those rights. Every group that comes out demands rights. It's my body. I have the right to treat it how I want to. I have the right to end any inconvenient pregnancy. I have the right to love whomever, whatever gender I choose. What's next? Well, they were in my way. I had the right to eliminate them. With rights come responsibilities. We may have in our nation all of those rights that I mentioned. Agree or disagree, those are rights. But we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to a higher law, a law that is God-given. And we are answerable to that law. I have the responsibility not to push my rights to the destruction of other rights, to the rights of others. I have the right to bear arms. I have the right to have a gun in my house. And I do. But I also have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to keep that out of the hands of minors and criminals. I have the right to keep people safe, to handle them correctly. I have the right to a peaceful and happy life, but I have the responsibility to work and to live at peace. Rights. With rights come responsibility. If I mistreat my body, I guess I have the right to do that, but I need to deal with the consequences. I have the responsibility to pay my way. I have the right to a good life. I have the right to the pursuit of happiness. But I have the responsibility, if I want happiness, to pursue it. Well, that's to our nation. Let's talk to our churches. We have the right to worship in our nation, but we have the responsibility to follow God as we worship. Not to be arrogant, not to be pharisaical as the Pharisees in the New Testament, but we have the responsibility to be followers of Christ, to treat people the way that we would want to be treated, to disagree and understand those disagreements, but to disagree with the love of Christ that says, we love you and we want you to be right with God. Rights, responsibilities. That's the first lesson from Joshua. I have a bunch more to talk about in Joshua. We'll try to finish it tomorrow. I look forward to the time that we spend together. Until then, may God bless your day.